Ladies and gentlemen, the 2019 SelectUSA Investment Summit program will begin in 10 minutes. Please find your seats. Ladies and gentlemen, the program will begin in 5 minutes. Please take your seats and remember to silence your cell phones at this time. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats. The summit is about to begin. All electronic devices should be silenced at this time.
The United States is a country built on ideas. It's in our DNA. Leaders, risk takers, believers. We are the original startup. We are a country of dreamers and doers, where a spark changed the world and founded the desire for innovation. With an infrastructure that stretches through miles of possibility. We believed we could fly, and now we fly higher. An engine drove us forward and now propels us around the globe. And manufacturing harnessed a work ethic and the relentless push for better. Just one line connected two voices, and now we connect the world. And today, here in the US, enterprise has become even more connected, where foreign investments find a true partner, a home, a consumer. World-class universities develop talent and skills and an entrepreneurial spirit. We're diverse, rich in resources, energy, human capital. From urban to rural, our hubs are new frontiers. A place where small international businesses and startups can become big, dynamic firms. And large companies operating abroad can grow even more. We're open to ideas. We're open to experiment. We're open to invest. We're open for business. SelectUSA.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Brian Lenahan, Executive Director of SelectUSA.
Love that video. Good morning. On behalf of the United States Department of Commerce, it is my pleasure to welcome you to the final day of the 2019 SelectUSA Investment Summit, but not the final opportunity for you to further your business investment potential here in the United States. Look first to America and work with SelectUSA, your investment specialists in market, and our greatest partners, the 56 states and territories that are present here and where you're going on in this week. I've heard very positive remarks about this year's investment summit, and we are here and very excited to record another year of progress in facilitating free, fair, and reciprocal trade between the United States and its partners, especially as a result of the connections you all have created and strengthened over these past few days. At the Department of Commerce, our mission is to create conditions for economic growth and opportunity. And we have another stellar lineup for you this morning to hear from. So let me begin this morning by introducing the leadership of the International Trade Administration. Our team is led by Undersecretary of Commerce for International Trade, Gilbert Kaplan. Throughout his impressive career, Undersecretary Kaplan has brought a laser focus to promoting competitiveness of U.S. firms and to ensuring that international trading relations are carried out on a level playing field. Throughout his career, he has used his legal talents to promote free and fair trade, both in the public and private sector. In the 1980s, he served at the Department of Commerce as a key negotiator in the U.S.-Japan Agreement on Trade in Semiconductors. And additionally, Mr. Kaplan supervised the President's Steel Program and the United States-Canada Lumber Agreements. He is the founder of the Conference on the Renaissance of American Manufacturing, and he's also the co-founder of the Manufacturing Policy Initiative at Indiana University, the first and only university program in the country focusing on public policy to revitalize U.S. manufacturing. In the private sector, Gil represented U.S. companies and workers in a wide range of cases. He also advised clients on trade policy matters as well as trade negotiations, such as those involving the WTO and the international anti-subsidy agreements. So please, ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce you, the Undersecretary for International Trade, the Honorable Gil Kaplan.
Thank you, Brian, for the warm welcome and the introduction. Let me join Brian in saying good morning to all of you and thank you for being part of our 2019 SelectUSA Summit. I am very encouraged to see the numerous participants in the various workshops and discussions this year's summit is offering. We have a full agenda for the rest of today as well, including remarks from our honored guest, Secretary of the Treasury, Steven Mnuchin. I also encourage you to attend our biotechnology discussions later today and a special conversation on workforce development with Ivanka Trump, Barbara Humpton, the CEO of Siemens USA, and Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross. Thanks to you and all those who attended over these last 3 days, I anticipate we have generated countless business deals. As Undersecretary of Commerce for International Trade, I am charged with the responsibility of fostering international trade opportunities, and I believe that the SelectUSA program, highlighted through our annual SelectUSA Investment Summit, is one of the primary examples of the important work we do at the Department of Commerce and at the International Trade Administration every day. Past Investment Summit participants have announced $103.6 billion in U.S. investment projects within 5 years of attending the summit, supporting 167,890 U.S. jobs. We obviously count them, in great detail. Investment in the United States is key to our economic success. SelectUSA has been a resounding success in this effort, assisting thousands of clients, including economic development organizations, EDOs, domestic firms, and international companies. And the program has facilitated over $47.8 billion in client-verified investment, creating or retaining tens of thousands of U.S. jobs. Investment in the United States is also key to our manufacturing sector's success. I have spent the better part of my career working to rebuild manufacturing in the United States, and I am very excited to be part of the Trump administration's effort to do this, which have included lowering business taxes, building up the workforce, vigorous enforcement of international trade laws, and regulatory reform. Due to SelectUSA's success and an urgent need to foster and protect American manufacturing, we have added a new focus within our SelectUSA program to help American companies invest in American factories, American jobs, and American communities. Whether it is by bringing factories and jobs back from abroad, which were moved there when our economy was weak and we were not fighting for manufacturing, or if it is by U.S. companies expanding their operations here. We call this effort Reselect USA. As you know, SelectUSA facilitates job creating, foreign investment in the United States, and supports the growth of U.S. companies in manufacturing and other sectors, creating opportunities for hardworking Americans. As for ReSelectUSA, the overall goal is to provide traditional SelectUSA services to U.S. companies to help them expand their investments in or return operations to the United States. ReSelectUSA is a concerted push to mobilize Department of Commerce and federal government resources to support U.S. companies on their path to growth domestically. ReSelectUSA provides U.S. companies a first point of contact at the federal level to help them overcome obstacles, connect with economic development officials in states, cities, and counties, and find their best opportunities to grow. ReSelectUSA services include counseling, research reports with objective data that, as always, maintain our geographic neutrality as between different states. It provides assistance navigating federal programs, some of which can be very helpful, such as opportunity zones, and it provides assistance navigating the federal regulatory system. It provides introductions to EDOs throughout the United States, many of whom are here today, and it provides ombudsman services. For any domestic company that is looking at expansion opportunities, we want you to look first at the United States. Our team has experts who can help U.S. companies in all the aforementioned ways, helping businesses grow where they have the best chance to succeed. And I am confident that location will often be right here in the United States. This week, we released a case study that examines 6 U.S. companies' stories regarding reinvestment choices in the United States. I hope this report can help inform all of us about how to refine the value proposition of the United States to attract investment, factories, and jobs. How to reselect USA. We at the Department of Commerce are fully committed to a trade vision that translates into new opportunities for the private sector, increased investment from abroad, and a higher standard of living for all Americans. Now, I am very pleased to introduce the Secretary of Commerce and my boss, Wilbur Ross. The Secretary firmly believes that the Department of Commerce is charged with enhancing investment opportunities for foreign investors and for American companies throughout this nation. We all know that the Secretary is one of the core members of the President's economic team. In this context, he is working tirelessly and vociferously to promote American prosperity and the necessity for free, fair, and reciprocal trade. The Secretary is an expert in global economic commerce. He understands the struggles our industries face against foreign countries that are not playing by the rules of trade. For that, we are grateful. And he also understands the importance of an open and fair investment policy that creates jobs, contributes to new technology, and enhances economic growth. Secretary Ross has had an exceptional government career in the 2.5 years he has been at the department, as well as an exceptional private sector career that preceded that, including as the chairman of W.L. Ross and Company. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the United States Secretary of Commerce, Wilbur Ross.
Good morning. We're fortunate to be hearing from another member of the President's Cabinet, our Secretary of the Treasury. Secretary Mnuchin was the Trump administration principal figure in the passage of the monumental tax reform bill. He is tasked with maintaining the financial help of the United States and, by extension, the global economy. Like myself, Secretary Mnuchin is now well into his 3rd year on the job, with a record of success that is hard to duplicate from at any other period in the history of this nation. Under his financial stewardship, the U.S. economy has been transformed from a lackluster funk to growing faster than any other G7 country. This growth is creating an unprecedented number of new jobs and is regenerating many of America's most important industrial sectors. Secretary Mnuchin plays a central role in the greatest global issues of our time. He's a principal negotiator in a new trade relationship with China. He spearheaded the passage of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the biggest boost to corporate investment in over a generation. And today, he is implementing tax reform in a way that generates a new wave of investment by companies like yours in the U.S. economy. Secretary Mnuchin is instrumental in assuring not only the economic security of the United States, but its national security as well. Many economic and financial issues now have national security implications, and this new reality requires a delicate balancing act and a great deal of his time. As chair of the Committee on Foreign Investments in the U.S., CFIUS, and as a member of the President's National Security Council, Secretary Mnuchin is safeguarding our national security while maintaining our commitment to an open investment environment. I believe he will go down in history as one of the three most impactful Secretaries of Treasury, ranking alongside Alexander Hamilton and Paul Millen. Before coming to government, our Treasury Secretary had a successful career in the private sector, working with all types of companies, especially in finance, and as he was the founder, chairman, and CEO of Dune Capital Management. He created One West Bank Group and ultimately sold it to CIT Group. And he also was a very successful movie producer, an unusual combination to say the least. It is one of my great privileges to work alongside Stephen in fostering investment and economic opportunities here at home and abroad. It's my pleasure to introduce to you the person whose name is on the U.S. currency, Treasury Secretary Stephen Mnuchin.
Thank you, Secretary Ross, for that kind introduction. It's always great to be with you. I know how hard you are working to open markets and ensure greater opportunities for America's farmers. Your efforts are making a tremendous impact. Secretary Ross, congratulations on putting together another successful SelectUSA summit and for making sure the world knows that America is open for business. It is an honor to be here with you again today. I'd like to begin by updating you on some recent developments. This past weekend, I was pleased to represent the United States at a meeting of the G20 finance ministers and central bank governors in Japan. My counterparts and I discussed the state of the global economy and policies we should be considering to foster greater economic growth. We advanced several priorities at the meeting. We discussed ways to continue fighting illicit financing of terrorism and weapons proliferation. We reaffirmed commitments to exchange rate stability and the avoidance of competitive devaluation. We continued our efforts to improve debt transparency and sustainability, to decrease the likelihood of crisis in poor nations, and we also secured commitments from our G20 partners to cooperate on efforts to modernize the international tax system. I look forward to making additional progress on these issues and more when I accompany President Trump to the G20 leaders meeting in Osaka, Japan, later this month. My discussion with other finance ministers has been productive and has reinforced the fact that the United States remains in a position of strength in leadership, having achieved growth rates that many of our trading partners aspire to. There has never been a better time to invest in America. President Trump's economic programs of tax cuts, regulatory relief, and improved trade deals is leading to stronger growth, more jobs, and higher wages. This American model of restoring competitiveness to our economy has led the United States to a period of historic opportunity and optimism for the future. The U.S. experienced 3% GDP growth from Q4 2017 to Q4 2018 for the first time in 13 years. We now have historically low unemployment rate at 3.6%, the lowest since 1969. Average annual hourly earnings growth continues to exceed 3%. Prior to our administration, the U.S. had seen a period of low economic growth, flat wages, and the lowest labor participation rate in decades. This is a similar story today for many economies around the world, from Europe to China. The difference is President Trump's pro-growth policies. The first element of the President's economic agenda is tax cuts. The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act gave hardworking families more spending power. It cut the federal income tax liability for a typical family earning $75,000 in half, saving them more than $2,000 per year because of lower rates, doubled standard deduction, enhanced tax credits, and other benefits. Thanks to concurrent wage growth, the typically family received an additional $2,500, meaning that at the end of 2018, they could be earning as much as $4,000 more in after-tax income. The law lowered our corporate tax rate from 35% to 21% and permits pass-throughs to deduct 20% of their qualified business income. It further allows the immediate expensing of capital expenditures for 5 years. These measures have helped the United States, a destination once again for manufacturing. The trend is undeniable. Since President Trump's election, we have gained well over 400,000 manufacturing jobs. We've already seen hundreds of billions of dollars invested in the establishment and expansion of U.S. business operations generally. But the manufacturing piece of our expansion really helps to tell the story to investors that you can invest, grow, and succeed here. I also want to highlight Opportunity Zones tax incentive, an important component of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Opportunity Zones will ensure that the economic renewal we are experiencing reaches distressed communities. The incentive provides capital gains tax relief for investments in areas that need revitalization. We are seeing greater enthusiasm for this policy from entrepreneurs and communities seeking to partner with one another to make positive social impacts. We are confident that it will help restore the promise of prosperity for more Americans, and I encourage you to look at incentives you consider where to locate your investment, both facilities and workers. To date, we have designated almost 9,000 opportunity zones to promote jobs in low-income communities. The second element of President Trump's program is regulatory relief. We have focused on improving the financial regulatory environment, and the Treasury Department issued a series of reports outlining our findings and recommendations for making financial regulatory conditions more predictable, fair, and efficient. These measures complement our trade efforts, which we aim to break down barriers to markets around the world. We have been working with China to achieve concrete changes to our trading relationship and structural reforms and practices such as forced technology transfers and intellectual property to open their economy. President Trump remains committed to addressing unfair trade practices in China. I must also highlight the U.S.-Mexico-Canada agreement. This deal will modernize our trading relationships in North America and create some of the highest standards ever to protect intellectual property rights and support small and medium-sized businesses and encourage manufacturing. I am hopeful that Congress will move quickly to pass legislation implementing this important trade deal. Additionally, we are focused on ensuring that our business environment is conducive to the United States maintaining a leadership role in the industries of the future. Nearly $8 trillion, or 38% of U.S. GDP, is linked to knowledge and technology-intensive industries. We will continue to support intellectual property protection and entrepreneurship, and we will focus on workforce development to meet the needs of our evolving economy. This means we are making scientific research a priority, as well as advanced manufacturing, artificial intelligence, and quantum computing. The U.S. is facilitating the development of infrastructure and freeing up spectrum for 5G use. We anticipate that the American wireless industry will invest $275 billion in 5G networks, creating 3 million new jobs and adding $500 billion to our economy. We are working with the private sector and educational institutions to make sure that workers receive the training they need to fill the needs of company leading ways in tech. As a result of President Trump's economic reforms, the World Economic Forum's most recent competitive report named the United States the most competitive economy in the world for the first time in 10 years. We are proud to be a country where business can grow and thrive, and we are proud to welcome foreign investment. I encourage you to join us in our economic renewal. Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here with you today.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ms. Becky Frankowitz, President of Manpower Group North America, to moderate a discussion on food and beverage and agriculture.
Gentlemen.
Good morning.
Perfect. Good morning. Thank you all for joining our session today. I'll be your moderator among these gentlemen joining me on the stage. I'm Becky Frankowitz. I work for a company called Manpower Group. We are the leader in global workforce solutions and staffing, which means that we have to be students of industry, including food, beverage, and agriculture. So the extent of change that we're seeing today in the world is comparable to the shift from horse-powered to machine-powered. It's happening at a speed and scale that we've never, ever seen before. Several years ago at Manpower Group, we identified a set of macroeconomic forces that would dramatically impact the world. The panel today will explore two of those forces. The first is the rise of individual choice. Consumers are increasingly wanting personalization and information around the goods and services they consume, the way things were made, who made it, and of course the blockchain that tracks all of this. We are also seeing the rise of choice when it comes to the workforce. Consumers as employees, the consumerization of talent, means that employees are increasingly wanting to choose when, where, and how they work. And this behavior is enabled by the fact that we have limited supply and ever-increasing demand for talent. That's the first macroeconomic trend. The second is the technological revolution. Technology and automation is changing the way that companies operate, unlocking efficiency, as you'll hear the panelists talk about today, and enabling innovation. Food, beverage, and agriculture have always been on the forefront of technology, from the invention of the plow to the horse collar to today, precision agriculture and drones. So with that context, I'd like to ask my panelists to introduce themselves. And in doing so, answer the first question, gentlemen, which is, in this context of technology, what are you seeing change the most in the industry? So Tom, we'll start with you.
Thank you, and honored to be here. I'm the CEO of a company called Alfa Laval. We are about a $5 billion US corporation with a strong history in food and beverages. In fact, we ran globally the biggest production facility worldwide in the late 1800s out of the Hudson River in New York, where we shipped 300,000 separators for milk and cream separation to the Midwest per year in those days. And if you want to think about technology development, today we ship around 300 units per year, producing immensely more milk and cream than those 300,000. So if you want to think about what technology does over 100 years, you can make multiplication yourself. And I can assure you it doesn't stop there. I think if I look at the technology opportunities we have now, I think the digital development is truly exciting for equipment makers like us that deliver equipment that are critical in the manufacturing processes in the food chain or in the oil and gas sector, wherever you are. And we see an extremely rapid penetration of monitoring programs, safeguarding the productivity and the performance of high value add equipment that goes into processes. And we see also as a result of that a much better opportunity for customers to benchmark within their plants or sometimes even with other units as to how they are performing in energy consumption, consumables, process efficiency, uptime. And so I think the digital revolution is greatly affecting process industries of all kinds and certainly equipment makers like us.
Perfect, thank you. Bunchai?
Yes, thank you, Becky. It's indeed my privilege and honor to be speaking here, and I wish to also thank you, SelectUSA ED Office, to organize this impeccable event, and I impress every time I join SelectUSA. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm Bunchai from Charan Pokapan Group. Charan Pokapan Group, or CP Group, is a Thai conglomerate with $63 billion revenue. Our core business range from agri-food value chain, retail distribution, and telecommunication. We are globally present in more than 100 countries. We have more than 200 subsidiaries, and we invest more than 20 countries, including Asia, Europe, and United States. We are also the group listed in the Dow Jones Sustainability Index, DJSI, and thus we adhere very much about the sustainability context. We are also a member of World Economic Forum. As the root of the organization, the company, back to the 98 years ago, from the agricultural to further into agri-food value chain, retail distribution, and telecommunication. Yet we don't forget about the root of the agricultural. So we wish also to be our vision, kitchen of the world. What does it mean? We like to extend our key capability beyond our home market in Asia to elsewhere in the world. And that's the reason we invest $1.1 billion in 2016 for a food business in United States. And this is one of the third, I would say, largest frozen packed food entree. We employ more than 2,000 employees here with 4 different production footprints, 2 in Ohio and 2 also in California. As such, I thought this is one of the best investments in the best ecosystem, best competitive market, and best ecosystem in terms of the business environment. This connecting the dot where we have a home base in Asia, we're connecting the dot in Europe, and now we have a footprint in the United States. So we can leverage these kinds of the cutting edge technology to bring the benefit to the consumer of the United States and elsewhere. And if you're talking about technology, you look at our broad range of the value chain, I'm pretty sure each and every one. You look at ag farming, from a very conventional farming, now you're talking about smart farming, precision farming. You use this technology of satellite to GPS, AI, IoT. You make it very smart farming. You're talking about food. We are in a meat producer company. We sometimes recruit the employee that what is specific for them to contribute to the organization. The one reason they say, I'm vegan. That's right. So there's some shift and change of the technology we should be aware of. So alternative protein and plant-based is already a $3 billion purely only in US. So we have to prepare these kinds of technology. We're talking about retail and distribution, the technology of O2O. Not many anymore now come into the retail store. They shop it online. And some of the online players go to the offline. So a little bit convergent between O2O. And last but not least, telecommunication. I'm not that sure how the home phones available and exist. I have one as part of my furniture rather than communication. And you're talking about my phone from the 1G into now 5G. So it's all about technology.
Yes.
What I like to say is that in the end, this is something to disrupt. Either we are early innovator, we stay on the serve, then we could be an opportunity. If we are laggard, we ignore the technology, and then we'll be a threat.
Yeah.
CP Group, very clear from the group CEO, Mr. Superchai. We are a technology-driven company. We spend a lot of time in research and development. We have more than 5,000 researchers. So we believe this is one of our core competence.
Perfect. Thank you, Boonchai. I should have said in my introduction, I'm uniquely qualified to moderate because I grew up on a family farm in Texas. We didn't have a lot of smart farming, so I'm excited to learn more about that. So with that, Renato.
Thank you, Becky. I'm Renato Hirsch, Chief Strategy Officer for SelectUSA. At SelectUSA, we have a digital platform that optimizes farming processes. We already operate in 10 different countries and various crops, ranging from sugarcane to soybeans, corn and cotton, going through perennials. And I would like to highlight to you guys what a great time it is to be alive. The world is changing in a very fast pace. If one looked at the 10 biggest companies in terms of market cap 10 years ago, only one would be a technology company. That was Microsoft. Today, 7 out of the 10 biggest companies in the world in terms of market cap are technology companies. Alexa was launched in November 2014. Today, 4.5 years down the road, there are more than 52 million speaker devices in the United States. That's a penetration of more than 15%. And what's going on in agriculture? There is a digital revolution happening as we speak. A digital revolution where IoT, Internet of Things, meets artificial intelligence. Moore's Law has gifted us with sensors that allow us to have information on everything in real time, and with artificial intelligence, both cloud and edge processing, which allow us not only to capture this information, but to process it in real time and deliver feedback into processes. And what we do with that, we help farmers to do more with less and to produce in a more sustainable way. We help farmers to trigger their planting based on soil moisture and soil temperature. We help farmers to trigger their spraying based on the weather conditions, wind speed, temperature, plant moisture. By doing that, we help them to reduce the amount of chemicals used in the produce. We help them improve the machine logistics throughout the processes, also in harvesting. And we help them to reduce the number of machines in the field, the number of people in the field, and the fuel consumed in the field. So that's what we're talking about. And these things happen in a very fast pace. We as a company, in the last 4 years, we've gone from 20% to 60% penetration in sugarcane in Brazil for digital solutions. This is the second year that we've been operating in row crops and soybeans, corn, and cotton. And we are reaching 7% penetration in Brazil, which is the second biggest grower in the planet. We are very proud to have launched our US headquarters out of the Purdue Research Park in Indiana. And things there are maturing faster than we expected. We're probably going to deliver in 2020 what we expected we were going to achieve only in 2021. So that's who we are and where we are. We're just in the beginning. Hopefully, we'll get far. Thank you.
Thank you, Renato. And definitely last but not least, Matthew, if you'd introduce yourself.
Sure. First, Becky, thank you very much, and to SelectUSA for pulling us together to be able to spend some time together and have a dialogue. My name is Matthew Ferner, and I work for a company called Firmenich Today, about at least half of this room would have used products that actually come from this company that I work for, and you would probably know very little to what we actually do. So we're a privately owned company. We're the largest in the world in our space. So we work in flavors, taste, nutrition, and perfume or fragrances. And we're a $4 billion company, and we have about 8,000 employees worldwide. So maybe just to give a bit of perspective of kind of what we do to make this come to life. Imagine it's a Saturday, and you are in the shower, washing your hair, and I'm kind of bored of my shampoo. What can I do differently today? I want to go out and buy a new shampoo. So you go to the store, you end up deciding to look at the myriad of selection that exists today when buying a shampoo. So what do we do? What do I do, right? I look at the products, I try to understand what's on the shelf, and then I start to make a narrow selection. Maybe Mango Madness looks really interesting to me. Maybe it's going to be Bahama Breeze, right? But I kind of get it down to 2 or 3. But what do most consumers do at that stage? You look around, is anybody watching? You grab a bottle, you take it, and what do you do next? You open it, right? And you smell it. So the company's job, what we do is we make that experience for you come to life. So we are to deliver a fragrance to help us make a decision about whether we buy that product. So why do we choose the product we choose typically in that scenario? It's typically around the fragrance that you just enjoyed. So we help consumers make decisions when buying a product. That kind of puts it into perspective in terms of how we work, and we do the same thing when it comes to flavors and what we taste. In terms of technology, absolutely, like my co-panelists have said, it's changing extremely fast. Just to pick on one area, when you think about 15 years ago, who was talking about smart proteins and plant-based proteins to replace meat? And that's exactly where we work actively today, and it requires a lot of big brains to come around that topic to understand the vegan issues and the trends that we see, which are not going away, they're only increasing, but it's a much different process to go out and to work with cattle to bring meat versus now working with enzymes and transforming the process of enzymes to something that can replicate nature. And so these are really challenging times, they're really exciting times, and it's exciting to see the enthusiasm from the panelists as well on these topics.
Great, thank you. I had no idea that Matthew was going to go into your showers this morning, so just so you know, that's a surprise to all of us. But I knew what you were going to say because I just bought some shampoo this weekend and I opened it and smelled it. So I hate it when they seal it because then it reduces the opportunity. Right? So to dig a little deeper, so we talked a bit about technology. Now I'd like to shift to this rise of individual choice, particularly around talent. And Tom, I'd like to start with you and understand what has your company done to attract and develop talent in this world of tight demand?
Well, I actually think one of the most important talent issues and people issues when it comes to the new generation and how things are is the problem of the dying traveling salesman and service technician for that matter. I mean, we have hundreds of people traveling the U.S. Most of us in my age, we grew up leaving home on a Sunday evening and coming home on a Friday, and we have significant challenges in filling those positions today, working in that way. And I think this is one of the most exciting areas for the digital development, that it will enable people to perhaps combine a family life and a traveling life in a different balance than in the past. So part of what we are trying to do in talent is to deal with this type of balance between people. The other thing that is changing for us in the US, I think, being a European-based company originally, is that we've done management development very much from a home base. So we've been sending people out. And I think this is changing also. In the world we have today, it's the corporate center is less important, and it's happening out in the real world, if you like. And consequently, we need to develop in a different way also senior managers from a US perspective. So now we're actually sending people to Europe from the US for the first time in order to get them engaged, get them to see something differently, and then coming back with a different experience. So I think there are a lot of tools and opportunities, but I think the general background to the question is we need to be much more active on this area than we ever been before.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was with a panel of CEOs or group CEOs a couple weeks ago, Tom, and the question asked was about this decentralization of a headquarter, if you will. And the question I was asked is, how do you build culture when people aren't constantly together. And so I think that's a real defining question for all of us, because we are seeing the fastest growing benefit around non-wage benefit for white collar jobs is telecommuting. So we'll increasingly see consumers want to work where they choose to work. So I think that's insightful.
I totally agree, and I think the cultural aspect of a company is so important today, and it goes with the purpose of what we are doing. And I think the technology transition we are in, not only in the digital area, but also when it comes to the renewable side and climate aspects and other things like that, you know, the purpose of being involved in supporting and driving that change is a fantastic glue for getting teams together. And we see enormous excitement on our youngsters in the group when it comes to these areas.
Yes, youngsters.
Youngsters.
I like it.
The 30-year-olds.
Yes.
Yeah.
Renato, I'd love for you to build on that in terms of what your company is doing to attract and retain talent.
Yeah, you've mentioned a very important point, Becky, which is culture. That's a difficult challenge. In the last 2 years, we've gone from 90 professionals to 400 professionals. And it's a very sticky employee base. What we tend to do, we tend to hire by the attitude and not by the knowledge. Like, we hire very young people and we train them internally. It's been successful, like what we need. Like, we need to have kids that love what they do, that love agriculture, that love making a change in the world. In the US, we're being successful so far. It's still the early days. We've started back in November last year officially. It was the official launch after 1 year researching. Today we have 15 people out of our US headquarters in Indiana. By the end of the year, we want to have some 40, 50 people out there. And one thing that it was a very positive surprise was Purdue. We've set up our US headquarters inside the Purdue Research Park, which gives us access to great talent, both in agricultural sciences and in engineering. So that's what we're doing as of now.
It's great. I love, just to capture something Renato said, we hire by attitude versus knowledge. We're increasingly seeing, as skills are changing at the pace of technology, that what you've done in the past is much less important than what you can do in the future. So increasingly, we will need to hire people based on what they can do versus what they have done. So I love that.
And get that, like data sciences, artificial intelligence, like get somebody with 10 years experience, like.
Yeah, good luck. That's what I'd say, good luck with that.
That's true.
And it's changed so quickly. So,
That's true.
Boonchai, this next question is for you, and you referenced it a bit in your opening. I'd love for you to share with this group why you see the U.S. as a really focused area for investment for your company.
If I look to the investment we make in United States, to me, I'm very convinced that United States has a great ecosystem, business dynamism. If I look, I split into two prongs. One is the three superpower, that mean engine for the economy, the world's largest economy in US, and this is big and robust, very most resilient economy. The second one is the demand side, and that's push from the GDP to the world's largest demand of the consumer. 325 powerful spending power. And if I shift this back to a supply side, this is, I would say, a whole value chain. In food and agricultural space, raw material is one of the most critical separative. So in the end, if I look at a corn and grain, corn and soybean in Midwest, this is one of the most competitive raw material we had in US, and that's a reason we invest $1.1 billion here. And yet you have another two core pillars. One of the most critical is also technology. We all know that US is one of the most advanced technology. In our industry, what we need most is biotechnology. Genomic is a gene sequencing, gene selection. I would say, talking about the digital transformation, AI, IoT, blockchain. Another core pillar is educational system. And no surprise, when I see from the screen from the day one, top 20 universities in the world, coming 15 from United States. And this make a lot of sense to bring these kinds of skillful workforces, which is help the organization very well. And that's something we see this is a best and great ecosystem of the investment in the United States. But yet, if I would love that since we invest here, what kinds of complementary we could bring also into US great ecosystem. If I look at the demand side, yes, it's kind of the world's biggest consumption. But some of those products, like seafood, especially shrimp, American, you consume 4.4 pounds per person per year.
Of shrimp?
Shrimp.
Wow.
Only shrimp. And if I multiply 325 million population, you're talking about 700,000 tons of shrimp you consume per year. And they tell you one thing, you get shocked. 95% of those consumption are imported. So you're talking about trade deficit in US only for the shrimp product. We, CP Group, we are one of the world leading aquaculture company, especially we are world leader for the shrimp integrated business. What we need to do, we can create a very sustainable shrimp culture for United States. So instead of you import, you can have a self-sufficient, a long-term sustainable business model. You can also export it. And this is something I need to wholeheartedly thank you, Secretary Wilberloss. He visits at our headquarters and inspired us about these kinds of projects. And I had to tell him that we have a firm commitment to this project. Why is that? In the end, it returned shrimp culture in US to be a very sustainable with 3 bullet points. Any time in a year, because we use the indoor system, temperature control, anywhere in the United States, in the West, in the East, in the North, in the South. And most importantly, as we adhere to sustainability context, it's a total waste recycling. So this is a whole ecosystem where I just thought this is our firm commitment to be responsible and benefit to the consumer of the United States.
Perfect, thank you. Matthew, I'd love to hear what your firm's also doing at Firmenich on why the US is a productive market of focus for you.
Sure, I'm really glad, Moonchild, that you spent so much time actually explaining that it is easy to do business here. And it is a reality, but I think when over 20 years of my career was outside the United States, I only came back about 2 years ago. And I've worked in some really tough markets in Asia in particular, and with 3 different assignments. And I'll tell you what, you kind of get used to working in some challenging markets, and people become kind of accustomed to a certain way of working. And one of my hesitancies actually when I said, look, next opportunity in the United States was, I'm not so sure it's going to be very dynamic compared to living in China, which is where I was at the time. You know, how wrong I was. I then came to the United States and realized it's so easy to make money. It's so easy to contribute back to society, which is an important part of one of our values, that I recognize that within the last couple of years, we made significant progress because it is just easy to do business. When you do business a case review or looking for a capital investment, you don't necessarily quantify what that means in the business case. It might be a soft factor or regulatory environment, intellectual property. These are important factors, though, actually. And if anybody knows how they're quantifying this and it's working well and you can convince a board, I'd love to talk to you about it. But it's a challenge, right? But actually, there's an enormous amount of cost that you spend managing those issues. So maybe to just move to another kind of obvious reason of why we're here, there are a lot of people interested in food and bev today here. And this, at the end of the day, is where a lot of the global headquarters are and where the big decision makers are for some of the biggest companies in the world. It's important for us to be close to them, so our global headquarters for where we service that business is run out of the United States. So on one side, you have that also ecosystem supporting food and beverage, and at the same time, what a great country when it comes to innovation and entrepreneurs. So we also need to be very closely working with people who are actually working from their garage literally to create products. These are how the byproducts of the world are created. And the impossible meat, where that comes from. It comes from little ideas that grow really big with support. And so we want to make sure we're there understanding those trends, because at the end of the day, we want to work very carefully with them to understand where those trends are going because we have a big role to play in how that's going to evolve.
It's interesting you talked about entrepreneurialism, because that ties perfectly into this rise of individual choice, because people are choosing to be contractors, freelancers, et cetera, at a faster rate, and a lot of that is manifesting itself in developing your own product or solution. So
Correct. And
more people in garages.
Right. Yeah, and there are barriers to entry for these entrepreneurs, right? They don't need assets,
That's
really.
right.
They just need their ideas.
That's right.
Again, because it's back to what exists in this country, right? You don't need kitchens, you don't need pilot plants. That's all provided for you. So as long as you have partners around you, you can bring these ideas to market very fast. We have clients on the West Coast. Something is on the shelf within 2 to 3 weeks of the idea when they come and meet with us. That's really fast innovation.
Yeah, love that. The democratization of innovation is what's happening. I love companies that are partnering with individuals around that, so thank you for that. Tom, I'd like to come back to you and change gears just a little bit. Given our audience, I'd love you to share how you've leveraged some state economic development organizations in your investment decisions, and if you have plans to increase that collaboration.
I must say, I think there are 2 countries in the world that stands out when it comes to support for industrial investments and activities. And in our experience, that is China and the US. In both countries, you meet with state, provincial representative who are committed to, together with you, to actually develop something. And sadly to say, in Europe, you often meet organizations that see industrial permits as a problem and not as an asset. So I think just the fact that you walk into on the state level to somebody who welcomes the business, and I think clearly to say under strict sustainability regulations and water conservation issues and whatnot, I don't think this is about being relaxed about how we treat our environment here in the US or in China for that matter. But I think that has been the most encouraging thing. We've done a lot of, since we've been here for 130 years, it's not that we're starting from scratch by any means, but you need to change your footprint, consolidate, expand, sometimes due to acquisitions, move around and these type of things. And we found that in places like Oklahoma, where we've done significant investment over the last couple of years, in Richmond, Virginia, just around the corner from here, and in Houston, we meet tremendous partnerships, and many of them are long-term. We've been here for 30 years in Virginia. We've been in Houston for even longer, and so you become, and as you say, you also become part of the community there. I mean, the bonding in those communities is very strong. They are proud of us, and we are proud of them. So we think it's fantastic.
Very nice. Bunchai, same question for you.
I think we have a very close interaction in collaboration with the EOD from the federal and also from the state. I think we have 3 different stages: before investment, after investment, and future investment. And then the pre-investment, I was here last 3 years, and I bumped to each and everyone from federal EDO and also the subnational EDO. We got very great information and knowledge about tax planning, tax incentive, support of the investor. So in the end, we can qualify a little bit, calibrate where to invest. After we have the acquisition or we have the investment, what we need to do is we bump into the subnational, for example, EDO in Ohio. They look at the investment plan right after acquisition, right after investment. We have around about $150 million just to upgrade the equipment, just to reskill employee, just to retrain employee, and just to upskill the employee. And that's some kinds of workforce development. We work closely hand in hand with the EDO office in Ohio, and likewise in California. And in the future, we also need to work with them. I cite some examples about the aquaculture industry. We love to be somewhere, anytime, anywhere. We need some state to start first. I had to thank you, Congressman Ted Yoho on the 3rd District of Florida. Once we spelled out, he ran out all the results from the state, from the EDO, and they come back together and then go into the state, make a site selection. You compare here and there, black and white, negotiate. So this is something, if we work closely with EDO, this is something we can gain benefit, as a mutual benefit from the investor and also from the United States. And this is my experience.
Yes, I love, Bunchai, you mentioning the EDO's partnership around upskilling and reskilling. It is critical in our country today that we're constantly looking at not just people's skills today, but what's going to be in demand tomorrow. And all of us, public, private enterprise, educational institution alike, will need to partner. So that brings us back to Purdue, which brings us back to you, Renato. So I'd love to hear your take on this question as well.
Yeah, I think it's a good opportunity for me to share a bit of the story on how we got to the U.S. We first presented the U.S. opportunity to our board. It was July 2017 in a board meeting, in an offsite. Well, the idea was scrutinized. We're like, well, Brazil is a huge market. We still have a lot to go. Why go to the U.S.? I'm a bit of a nudnik. I came out here anyway in December. And I got back with a plan under my arm saying, we need to do this. There's no one doing what we are doing in the US. We got to go there. I got the approval of a small budget, and we started ramping up in the US. That was December 2017. March 2018, we are out in California and San Francisco. And we go out pitching our idea to Kip Tom. Don't know if you guys have heard of Kip Tom. Kip Tom is a big farmer in Indiana. Very relevant farmer, and he's now the U.S. ambassador at FAO, at the UN for Food and Agriculture Organization. And we go there pitching Kip Tom, and he brings in a lady with him, Beth Beckdahl from AgriNovus. And he's like, he starts pushing us. He's like, you're serious about the U.S., so are you going to set up an operation here? Where are you going to set up? And like, didn't know much of the U.S. geography and how to do business here. And we said, yeah, here, there. And Beth jumps in the table and she says, you got to come to Indiana. You got to meet us. And we're like, okay, like, we'll go to Indiana. And Beth from AgriNovus introduced us to the leadership at Purdue. We are there with Mitch Daniels, with Brian Edelman. And we get very impressed, and we're like, whoa, like we look around Purdue, all we see is corn and soybeans, and we're like, whoa, this is a good place for us. We look inside, like there is great talent in agricultural sciences and engineering. We were like, well, this is starting to make sense. And then we got introduced to Elaine Beadle at the IEDC, the Indiana Development Corporation, Economic Development Corporation. And we get the grant from the government to set up our operations out there. Then we launch our operations in November last year, officially, our headquarters, at the AgriNovus event in Indiana. And we got Governor Holcomb giving a speech in the video for us. So this is beautiful. Like, it's absolutely beautiful to see the intersection that we have in the U.S. between business, government, and academia. Like, it's amazing coming from Brazil, seeing these interactions, these lively interactions, and the willingness to make things happen is just beautiful. Thank you for all the support.
That's awesome. So I have a question now for all the panelists, and Matthew, I'm going to start with you.
Sure.
As we look at, we've talked about the pace of change of technology, we talked about the pace of change of skills. As you look out, and let's just take a short-term horizon, 3 to 5 years, what are you most excited about that you see is going to change the industry you sit in?
I'll go a bit with the wellness trend, because there's so many we could pick from, I'm sure, right? So in terms of wellness, right, it's important to understand that the diets of the world actually are moving to where we want what? Less sugar, less salt, less fat, right? And it's a great opportunity for us to get involved in. It requires new technology, new solutions. But I think what's amazing about this space is that we can't act by ourselves in order to ultimately drive the right choices for consumers. So today we are able to bring 30 to 5% less sugar and take it out of a product because of technology that we've been able to develop over the last few years. That's a great thing to be able to talk about. But when you take 30 to 50% of sugar out of a formula, and let's imagine you're talking about dry breakfast cereal, which can tend to have a lot of sugar involved, you're taking a lot of mass out of the product. So we can say, look, we can reduce sugar, but then we have to talk to others saying, but look, we need to put something else out there, right? Because maybe you're used to a breakfast cereal of this size, you're not going to be interested in seeing it change too much. So then we have to involve others and partners to say, look, we can do this, what else can you bring to a healthy choice as well for the consumers? And so of course clients and everybody gets very excited about it, but it's tough, and that's why it's fun, is because there is the opportunity. So I think when you see this whole space, you'll be seeing a lot more products that are reducing sugar, salt, fat. We talked a little bit about alternative proteins. And all of this requires different ways of working, not just ourselves, but many players involved as well.
Yeah, I love that story, Matthew. One thing we didn't talk about backstage is I used to manage the Quaker Foods business for PepsiCo, and we faced that exact challenge. It was more of a consumer challenge. As you reduce bulk, you reduce size, and who wants to see a cereal box? You know, in the United States, our cereal boxes are like this big. Who wants to see a cereal box this big? Then you have a price value challenge. So I'm very close to what you're facing, so very interesting. But still, the noble goal of making our food healthier and higher quality is worth figuring that out.
Absolutely.
So Renato, same question for you. As you look on 3 to 5 years, so not what we've talked about today, but a little further out, what are you most excited about impacting your industry?
I think that there are two core trends. One is autonomy. If you think through, it's probably much easier to have full autonomy in a farm environment than it is to have full autonomy in a city environment. So that's one core theme. Like the way we see it, we bring autonomy from a process perspective. And we trigger processes based on the real online conditions of all the different parameters. And we're bringing more and more autonomy into the machines to, in a couple of years, have a full autonomous farm. So that's one trend. And one trend that relates a lot to what Bunchain was saying and what Matt was saying is this trend of transparency, like transparency, sustainability. Like we as consumers, we demand to know what we are eating. We demand to know what our kids are eating. So with technology, now we are able to trace, with blockchain, one of the outputs of our platform is traceability. Our core value add is operational efficiency, but we are tracking everything that is happening during the production process, and we are now starting to print this in a blockchain, so that when we get to the farm gate, you get the full history of that produce, and then you'll bring this into the Alfa Laval machines, and you'll take it out to the protein from CP. When it gets to your home, like you'll just scan that product, and you know the full history of that produce.
Absolutely.
So that's a trend, and that's going to happen in the near future.
Great, thank you. Bunchai, same question for you. A little further out horizon, what is most exciting to you?
He's my partner. So let's just echo what he says.
So what he
That's the
says,
business.
there you go. There's a deal happening on the stage here.
Sustainability is the center of everything in what the business we has been doing. It might be 3 years, it might be 5 years, but we have to start from now. In our food business, we talk about food security. We're talking about food safety. We're talking about traceability. We're talking about sustainability. But it's far away from where we realize. Let me put something, a very provocative innovation, but tangible for sustainability. We have our research and development innovation talking about microwave technology, the industrial scale. From the past, if we like to have a shelf-stable product, we need to use a chamber of the steam to kill these kinds of microorganisms so that it can be put into a shelf-stable, room temperature. But they also destroy the identity of the color, meat, texture, and whatever. What we have is a micro-technology dermal assistant. What we need to do is use this kind of microwave technology to sterilize the ready meal. That means everything is inside, carbo, protein, vegetable. It keeps the same identity. And yet this kind of sterilized microwave technology can keep into the room temperature for 1 year.
Wow.
If you calculate from the production to the cold chain of our warehouse, logistic, retailer, household, how much of energy you could save as a sustainability. We save the earth.
Wow.
But this is not something we could do within a day or a year. We had our product in Europe. But there might be something we have to make a move to be a mass market to benefit the consumer everywhere in the world.
We save the earth. Wow.
We save the earth.
Wow. And Tom, for our final thought on that question.
Well, I think I'll go a little bit outside of the food and beverage sector,
Let's
which
hear
we've
it.
been very focused on here. I think in my view, the most energetic issue and promising issue is where renewable energy is going, and particularly related to energy storage. As you know, the issue we have in the climate problems we're tackling with renewables is that it's volatile. And a volatile energy supply is not a very good thing for consumers. You want to control when you're using electricity or not. Our view is that battery technology can be great for cars and mobile units, but for large storage, it's not efficient, and it's not environmental friendly either. So you need to go to thermal storage. And saving energy in molten salt or any other abrasive type of solution is extremely corrosive and problematic from many points of view. So our technology in heat transfer development is extremely important to find energy storage solutions that work on a large scale. And interestingly enough, that technology development is happening right now. I think it has a chance to be commercial within 5 years. We think there are pilot plants within 2 to 3. And as opposed to the way we worked with technology in the past, which would be ourselves starting to look at it, drawing up the systems, we've gone in partnership with a small startup company in Boston. And there we have the right venture capitalists, we have the right startup mentalities, we have a couple of industrial partners, and we are totally focused to get the heart and lung of this system, which is the technology we control, to function in this type of environment. And I think if we can break through on that project, then the whole energy storage solution for the world's renewable energy sources will be solved once and for all. Wow.
I love that.
See you in 5 years.
Yeah, see you in 5 years. We're saving the earth, literally. That's incredible.
Looking forward.
For our final rapid fire question, what I'd like to ask the panelists to do is leave us with a tweetable message so that everyone here can take something out of the room. So if you had one final thought for the audience, what would that be? And Matthew, we'll start again with you.
Sure. Look, just make it happen, right? I think you are leaving money on the table that could definitely be yours if you were playing in this market. It's really easy to do business. And I think by just kind of taking that leap, that opportunity, more likely than not, you'll be very successful here and you will grow your business substantially. And I know there's some people thinking about this, but I think from my experience, just do it, and I'm sure you'll have a great experience.
Perfect. Renato?
Action is the main thing. Real-time actionable insights, doing more with less.
Do more with less. Unchai?
Maybe if I spend a little bit more 30 seconds just to thank you, Becky, and also my fellow panelists. I also like to thank you, the U.S. Embassy of Thailand, who bring all the support to me and CP. But one of the most important message I'd like to echo again, our group CEO, Superchai. So he said, for all the investor, and this is something just to represent, and since one of those is also CP, we had to ensure the business and investment we made has a 3 benefit principle. That means what we invest must first benefit the country we invest. Secondly, the community we engage. And thirdly, is in the end back to the company and shareholder. And this make more sustainable investment and business. And that's something we are committed on this. What about the technology? What about sustainability? We adhere to this kinds of the context anyway.
Thank you. Tom?
Well, I think you heard from the panel, unrehearsed, I might add, that the technology optimism is relatively big in this group. And I think that doesn't match so well with part of the public discussion going on today, which is that robotics, autonomous units and other things will lead to mass unemployment and things like that. I actually don't believe that for a second. My belief is that technology is here to develop people to smarter people and products and services to better products and services. And I think that is the promise of what we're talking about today.
Yes, and the history of every time we face technology, by the way, that we've created new jobs, not net new jobs versus destroying jobs. So I want to recap a couple things that we've heard from the panel as we close. So first, we heard Boon Chye talk about the ecosystem that the United States of America has to offer, whether it's from local partnerships with states, the demand that the U.S. economy represents, or the education support that we actually heard Renato and Boon Chye talk about. We have an ecosystem that's ready for development. Matthew added a couple of times, if you heard him, that it's easy to do business here, and he's done business in several other parts of the world, and it's easy to do business in the United States of America. Tom talked about the U.S. stands out along with China for support of organizational growth, and this trend we're seeing on the decentralization of headquarters that creates an opportunity actually for work-life balance. And so I appreciated so much hearing several of our panelists not just talk about the business side of what they do, but the people side, the human side of what they do, whether it's work-life balance or community involvement that you heard Boon Chye talk about of one of the 3 pillars of his company. So I appreciated that. And then of course we had Renato open us with, it's a great time to be alive. Boon Chye says we're saving the earth. And also Renato talked about IoT meeting AI. And then I loved Tom's closing comments when he said, and by the way, we know this to be true, the storyline has to change from will robots take my job to what's the role in humans augmenting technology and leveraging human capability for higher order work and processing. Technology is changing the way we work around the world and right here in Washington, D.C. and across the United States of America. The defining challenge of our time will be harnessing technology for improvements in quality, sustainability, efficiency, which you heard many of the panelists talk about today, but also harnessing technology for the reskilling of our population, because the population growth is slowing globally with a couple of exceptions, and the defining challenge will be ensuring that we have people ready and able to do the work that we have not just today, but tomorrow. So the final thought I leave you with is something that Renato introduced, which is the future is much more about what you can do versus what you have done in your past. So with that, I thank you all. Gentlemen, it's been a real pleasure. Thank you for having us. Have a great rest of your conference.
Thank you.
I came to Portland from Thailand and I was drawn to the friendly people and maker culture. You can do anything in Portland. Portland is known for its food culture. We have every type of food, from high-end dining to street food. While you are here in Portland, you have to try the food from the food carts. There are 600 to choose from. This one is actually mine, and I make Thai chicken and rice. If you are downtown, make sure to stop by the Forest Park for a hike and a great view of the city. There are so many unique places you could only find in Portland. It's so much fun to explore the shops here. And there's no sales tax. Any style is in style in Portland, as long as you make it your own. Welcome to Portland. You're gonna love it here.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the Honorable Karen Dunn Kelly, Deputy Secretary of the United States Department of Commerce.
Good morning, and I hope you are all enjoying the conference as the days go by here. This morning I'm here, and it is really a pleasure and an honor to introduce the 14th United States Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry. Prior to joining the Trump administration to lead America's main nuclear safety, traditional energy, and alternative energy agency, Secretary Perry served as the 47th governor of the state of Texas between 2000 and 2015. As governor, Secretary Perry led the great state of Texas in an unprecedented 14 consecutive years. That makes him the 10th longest serving governor in United States history. After his first 2 terms in office, the people of Texas elected Secretary Perry for an unprecedented 3rd term as governor. And why? The reason is simple. He got things done. As governor, Secretary Perry oversaw the rejuvenation of Texas after the Great Recession, bringing down unemployment rates from the peak of 8.3% in 2009 to 4.5% when he left office, while keeping Texas's unemployment at rates below the national average. As Texas' economy grew enormously during his tenure, annual GDP rates estimated for Texas showed growth of $931 billion economy in 2000 to a $1.49 trillion economy in 2015. That's a growth rate of over 60%. At the same time, Texans' real per capita income grew by $10,000 or 23%, far higher than the national rate. Secretary Perry can rightly take credit for much of Texas' economic growth during his tenure. While governor, he pushed for pro-growth policies and tax reform. He signed into law a $15.7 billion property tax cut in 2006. Furthermore, he presided over a profound period of foreign direct investment in Texas. In 2016, foreign buyer sale volume in Texas accounted for 15% of all sales in the state. Wow, it is up from 2% in 2008, quite a growth. What's more, Secretary Perry provided during his time as governor that pro-growth economic agenda to go hand in hand with prudent environmental policy. As state population and workforce grew by millions, Texas saw a reduction in CO2 and improved air quality during his governorship. Secretary Perry is leading the Department of Energy at an exciting time. He is overseeing a revolution in alternative energy sources as the United States is achieving energy independence and becoming a net exporter of fuel to markets around the world. With this, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the United States Secretary of Energy, Rick Perry.
Well, you said it just like I wrote it.
Well, you did.
Thank you, Karen. I told Karen, I said, golly, you gave it just like I wrote it down for you. So everybody ready to move to Texas now, right? That's awesome. So be sure and tell now Senator Scott and then former Governor Scott, we used to have this great competition between the states, and that still goes on, I'm sure. But anyway, Deputy Secretary Kelly, I'm delighted to get to be here and share with you again, all of you who, I think this is our 3rd time to be at the SelectUSA Investment Summit, and I want to say a special thanks to Secretary Ross. He's hung out at the White House for a little bit. He continues to be an incredibly valued part of the administration and giving great advice. We've got some leadership from the country of Poland in town today, so some great opportunities there. And our other colleagues, I know that you've either heard from already, including Secretary Sonny Perdue over at the Department of Agriculture, a great and good former governor, I might add, and then Secretary Mnuchin as well. I don't know, I think they may have already spoken today, but anyway, you've had a great group of people representing the administration here. Some of you have traveled long distances, and I want to say thanks for making the effort to come and to roll into Washington, D.C. today. And I think there's never been a time with more possibilities, and I'm excited about all these possibilities that we see and engage in a lot of opportunities around the globe. And I assure you that there's no better place to do business than in the United States of America. There's not a better country to invest with than the United States We're home to more direct investment from abroad than any other nation on this globe. We got a total of $4 trillion in 2017. And those investments support more than 7 million U.S. jobs and drive more than $60 billion in R&D investment. And so I think the question is appropriate. Why should you invest in the U.S.? By investing in this nation, you're investing in a place, and I might add in a people, with an unmatched record of world-changing innovation. As Secretary of Energy, I get to see that firsthand, particularly in the area of energy production, also in a host of other areas as well. And it's thanks to innovation. We now are an energy superpower. You recall back 15 years ago, a short period of time, we were told that we had found all the energy that there was to find, that even if we found any new sources of fossil fuel in particular, that it was going to be exorbitantly expensive to develop. And conventional wisdom said that this was the new reality, this was the new normal. Fast forward, with American technology, American innovation, and we are in the dawn of a new energy era in the world, and the United States is leading that. Today, those innovators, those energy investors, not only are enjoying this new day, this dawn of the new energy era, but we have a great friend in the White House. Under the President's leadership, we are now producing energy more abundantly, more affordably. We're using it more cleanly and more efficiently. And I might add, we're obtaining it from a wider range of energy sources than anyone ever thought possible. And as a result, jobs are back, prosperity is back, the economy is booming. And rather than being energy dependent on, in some cases, unfriendly nations, we are now sharing our energy bounty and our technology with friends and allies around the globe. Today, we are the #1 oil and gas producing country in the world, and we expect to contribute to 1/2 of the entire world's growth of oil and gas production between now and the year 2025. You think about it, I mean, that is a stunning set of numbers and a stunning turnaround. 2 years ago, the United States became a net exporter of liquefied natural gas for the first time since 1957. And today we are shipping LNG to 36 nations on 5 continents. We're also making incredible progress in renewables like wind and solar. Over the past 2 years, our nation's solar energy production has expanded by an astounding 85%. We expect that wind generation will surpass hydro for the first time this year, and that by next year, by 2020, renewables will produce almost 20% of the total power in the United States. And we continue to lead the world in reducing energy-related carbon emissions. You heard that right. For nearly 2 decades. The United States has reduced more of these emissions than any other nation on earth. And we've done it without surrendering one single fuel, one bit of growth, one iota of opportunity. We've done so by saying no to these onerous regulations that some would use, and yes to innovation. Much of that innovation has come from places like the Department of Energy's national labs, over the years, our scientists at those labs, I tell people this is the most interesting job I've ever had. Not the best job. I still believe being the governor of Texas is the best job I've ever had. But this is the most interesting job. And when you think about these national labs and the areas that they have changed, the innovation, the technology that you've seen, whether it was, these scientists and engineers over there that decoded DNA, they helped kickstart the development of the internet, they brought safe drinking water around the globe, they pioneered nuclear safety modeling, they've assisted in the shale gas revolution that's going on, they've ignited the LED revolution in lighting that's occurring. They are powering spacecraft to other planets. That's a fascinating portfolio, to say the least. Last year, we made direct investments of nearly $15 billion to the national lab system. And I will tell you, that is an incredible value that we're receiving back as a people, and not just in the United States, but globally. According to a recent paper from the National Institute of Standards and Technology, between 1996 and 2015, academic technology transfer contributed up to $1.3 trillion in gross industrial product, almost $600 billion in gross domestic product, and 4.3 million jobs. Yet, that's a great story, but I'd like to see more. And I'd like to see an even greater return on our innovation portfolio, as well as find new ways to boost our economic competitiveness and bolster our national security. And one of the best ways we can do it is by partnering with the private sector. And to make it happen, we've increased the profile, we've expanded the portfolio of our Office of Technology Transfer and Chief Commercialization Officer. And we've brought a number of innovative programs under the stewardship of that program. So in addition to supporting industry incubators like chain reaction innovations at Argonne National Lab, the cyclotron road at Berkeley Lab out on the West Coast, giving researchers and entrepreneurs access to our national labs that helps further develop their energy and science technologies. So in addition to that, we've also continued to hold a series of Innovation X Labs. These are events that are designed to cultivate engagement between the Department of Energy and the private sector. As a matter of fact, I spoke at our most recent X Lab Summit in Oak Ridge, Tennessee at the Oak Ridge National Lab, and we focused on advanced manufacturing. As a matter of fact, last week, Secretary Ben Carson was on the Mall, where he's showing manufactured housing, but it's 3D manufactured housing that comes from this type of technology that's coming out of our national labs. He also drove a 3D manufactured vehicle that Oak Ridge National Lab had helped build. So, there's just fascinating work going on that's starting at our national labs with private sector partners that is then commercialized into things that really matter to the citizens of this country. And listen, I think you can see here firsthand, I'm pretty excited about the work that's happening in our national labs. And they're also home to the 3 fastest supercomputers in the world. 5 of the 10 fastest supercomputers in the world reside at our national labs that are operated by the Department of Energy. And the next generation exascale machines are just now, very soon coming online. We're going to be able to, both in machine learning and artificial intelligence, start making impacts in the world, whether it's on medicine, whether it's on a host of different areas that are truly world-changing. AI has already been used to make energy exploration more accurate. They optimize the security of our electrical grid system, increasing energy efficiency. DOE-fueled AI is also being used to reduce traffic jams, strengthen our cybersecurity, predict extreme weather, improve emergency response, and even develop better treatments for cancer and traumatic brain injury. Every one of us, this starts becoming very personal. It becomes something that is not just some faraway idea that government's putting some money in. What's happening at our national labs, what's happening at the Department of Energy, working with our private sector partners, is real impact on real people's lives. If you have a family member with one of those maladies, and the work that's being done at our Department of Energy labs is saving their lives, literally, or making their existence better, then I hope you see that this beginning, this dawn of this new energy era, if you will, it's not just about the fuels that we have, but it's a host of different areas that artificial intelligence and the revolution that is creating is fundamentally going to be transformational, just as much as the Industrial Revolution was before. That's why DOE will continue to build on its global leadership in high-performance computing. We're not just benefiting this nation and our people, but we're literally benefiting the world. Now, another way to promote public-private partnership is through supporting domestic energy projects, expanding our LNG export projects. Matter of fact, that we were just with our friends from Poland signing a new memorandum of understanding on the civil nuclear side of things, as well as a LNG contract, long-term contract, sending that LNG halfway around the world. The bottom line is this: the Department of Energy is and has been and will continue to be your champion here at home. And that, more than any other reason, is why we are gathered here today. The world is very eager to engage with America's energy industry. I know that. I stay on the road a lot. Back last week from 3 different countries in Europe, and the week before that, and to other areas around the globe and South America. So, you know, whether it's expanding the LNG infrastructure opportunities in Europe, whether it's securing the import agreements for U.S. coal to the Near East, or sharing promising emission-reducing technologies worldwide, the American energy company represented here in this room have a tireless advocate at the Department of Energy, and I especially appreciate your interest in investing in this nation. And I hope you will come away with a sense of the incredible work that's going on in energy, in technology, in innovation, and you're figuring out how you can be a part of that. So I think if there's a big open for business sign right now in this country, and investing in America. By doing that, you are investing in Americans, in the people, in the individuals, in this proudly innovative, energetic, and free people. And you're also investing in America's future and all the tremendous promise that has. Thank you.
What makes us so unique is that we have a wonderful blend of the culture, of our cuisine, and our outstanding community festivities. I'm from the Shreveport-Bossier area. There's always something to do. Sometimes it's a big, giant festival or a parade, or you're taking these intimate moments to go to one of my favorite places to eat downtown, which is Abby Singer's Bistro, and you get a slice of the delicious taste and sights and sounds all in one place. There's some things that you can do at the boardwalk and enjoy all of the different shops and stores and restaurants. You know, one of the craziest experiences that we can have, zip lining right there at Gators and Friends. That's one of the craziest and the coolest things to do. What makes us so very special is our culture, our diversity, the people and the various ethnicities that we celebrate often here in our area. And one of the places I enjoy going is right here at the Southern University Museum of Art here in Shreveport, where we celebrate the African and African American experiences through art and artifacts. One last thing I want you to remember. No matter who you are, no matter where you're from, no matter what you look like, no matter what you sound like, we here in Shreveport-Bossier, we want to give you one big welcome.
For a global business, coming to the US market isn't just a good idea, it's a must.
Makes no sense to go anywhere else. If you really want to grow your company, yeah, go to America.
There's an ecosystem here. It starts with there's the educational institutions that are among the top in the world.
A proven track record of innovation coupled with excellent protection of intellectual properties.
Also, the legal system in the U.S. is very, very stable, very, very well understood.
There's a capital market system that supports entrepreneurs and investments.
I've had an incredible experience with the workforce that I have employed here in America.
We got all kinds of faces. I mean, in our factory, it's 40 nationalities and 7 languages on our factory floor.
And this ecosystem grows and thrives and flourishes. And this has produced some pretty tremendous success stories.
The United States does offer a level playing field, doesn't matter where you come from.
As time goes on, success breeds more success.
It's quite a daunting task, taking your business overseas into a new market, into a country where I essentially didn't know a single person.
Part of that challenge of coming to the United States was to really understand how Toto, a Japanese company, was going to go beyond just a sort of an Asian-centric business model into a global business model.
SelectUSA is a point of contact.
The access that companies have at the summit to the highest level of the federal government, plus all of the state and local agencies. For us, it was an unparalleled opportunity to access all of the people in one place that we need to make our transition to the U.S. Easier.
That's the biggest mistake that I made, is I can do this myself.
There are folks you can come talk to that will give you a sense of confidence that by putting a footprint here on the ground, we'll find success.
In New Zealand, I have been in the rock climbing market for 20 years, and I got to 3 locations. Here in America, I was open for 1 year, and we were moving into the franchising model. That is really what America does, so quick.
As you think about the innovation that you have in your company, if you can bring that innovation and integrate it into the entrepreneurial spirit of the United States and grow your business, you have the opportunity to really gain some significant market share.
This is the land of opportunity and freedom.
Step into it, engage, you're going to find an opportunity to find success, because if you can make it here, you can make it anywhere.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome back to the stage the Honorable Wilbur Ross, Secretary of the United States Department of Commerce, to moderate a discussion with Ms. Ivanka Trump and Ms. Barbara Humpton on workforce development.
Thank you. It's me again, and a big thank you to Secretary Mnuchin for being with us a bit earlier. I hope that you found his speech as informative as I did. Now we move to another really big priority of this administration and of this country, the American workforce. As I've met with a lot of you individually this week, biggest problem most of you have come up with is the workforce, and that's what we're here today to try to deal with. As every industry is being revolutionized by digital technologies, there's a growing need for highly skilled workers in every enterprise. Companies throughout the country are scouring community colleges, universities, technical training institutes, wherever they can find people. Employers are creating apprenticeships and are working with school systems to orient education more toward the practical needs of the workplace. Today, with the lowest unemployment rate in 50 years, there are 1 million more jobs open than there are people unemployed. Yet labor force participation rates remain stubbornly low, and there are pools of potential workers throughout the country who may benefit from the training they need to enter an exciting career. Workforce development is core to the President's economic agenda, along with tax reform, regulatory reduction, and free and fair trade. It's been part of the economic agenda from day one. And that's largely thanks to the person who's sitting next to me on the stage, Ivanka Trump. Thank you, Ivanka, for being here. It's my pleasure to serve with you as co-chair of the National Council of the American Worker. We're also joined on the stage by Barbara Humpton, CEO of Siemens USA, who thankfully has also taken a leadership role in these issues. She's a good soul in helping us. And Barbara's involvement has been driven in part by the success she has had at having her company adapt this very successful German training and apprenticeship leadership programs. So before we get going, let me just say a few words about our discussants. Ivanka, as everyone knows, is an accomplished author who has written 2 bestsellers, a very tough thing to accomplish once, much less twice. And before devoting herself full-time to public service as advisor to President Trump, she was an accomplished businesswoman with a popular line of clothing, handbags, jewelry, shoes, and accessories. As a graduate of the Wharton School at the University of Pennsylvania, she has closed some very large real estate deals, including the wonderful Trump Hotel here in Washington. She's also been active in many, many charities. However, most important of all, she's the mother of 3 children, and we know how hard that is in and of itself. Ivanka is truly committed to rebuilding the U.S. economy. She understands how important manufacturing is to local communities and to the workers that are the backbone of the country. We're also fortunate that Barbara Humpton has agreed to participate in this discussion. Barbara is one of America's leading executives, CEO of Siemens USA, which employs 50,000 Americans and has more than $23 billion in revenues. Company is an international powerhouse with more than $5 billion of exports from the U.S. alone. And prior to joining Siemens, Barbara was vice president at Booz Allen Hamilton, and earlier was a vice president at Lockheed Martin. She's passionate about workforce training issues, and she's a member of the President's American Workforce Advisory Board and is helping to develop and implement a long-needed national strategy to train the next generation of skilled workers. Barbara is providing the National Council for the American Worker with the latest thinking and experiences from business, education, our states and cities, organized labor, and other institutions that have a role in educating and training American workers. Thank you both for being at the SelectUSA Summit. So let's get started. This is a question for both Ivanka and Barbara. Why has the workforce issue risen to the highest level of importance in industry and government? Ivanka?
Please.
Thank you, and thank you so much, Secretary Ross. It has been, first of all, a great honor to be included in what is a truly remarkable annual summit. I think this is the 6th year that this has been ongoing, and the number of deals that have been generated through this dialogue is truly impressive. So I know this year is the biggest and most robust yet. So I applaud you for your leadership on that front. The reason this room is full is because the president has fulfilled his promise of ensuring that we adopt pro-growth policies and pique the interests of investors, not only locally, but from around the world.
Right.
So we worked very, very hard together to ensure that tax reform, long overdue tax reform and tax cuts were put into place, not only to benefit American families, which our tax cuts do, as evidenced by all the data showing that Americans are taking more after-tax pay home. Their hard-earned dollars going back into their pockets where they belong, but also cutting the corporate rates to ensure that American business can compete with business everywhere else in the world on a level playing field. So having passed through a massive tax reform package in the last Congress, coupled with an aggressive deregulatory agenda. And when I say deregulatory, common sense deregulation.
Right.
So for years, we've had layer and layer and layer. It's sort of like the licensure issue of regulation put into place that some cases is very well intended, but doesn't yield the ultimate end goal, or in some cases is just antiquated and were put in place for a different economy and for different needs. So we are pulling that back very aggressively, maintaining the regulations that are important for safety and wellness of obviously the American worker, society at large, and all of the other elements that are so critical, but pulling back the layers that have impeded business and thwarted growth, especially for small businesses and entrepreneurs. So today, I am here doing something that President Trump committed to doing early on in the days when he was campaigning, which is really being a cheerleader for this country. And he's made it very easy because of what the administration has been able to accomplish to make sure that this room was brimming with people who are interested in the opportunity and investing their capital right back into the United States of America. So I welcome you. I applaud you. I think you're clearly making the right decision, and we're going to ensure that we're doing everything within our power to rise to the occasion to make sure that your investments have the pipeline of talent coming out of our schools, K through 12, our apprenticeship programs, which we're expanding rapidly, and then working in collaboration with you and with the private sector to ensure that mid and late career workers have the opportunity to continually be trained in the skills that are relevant in this incredibly fast-moving digital economy. So one of the things that as a nation and across the world we need to disrupt is the fact that education happens during a finite period of time in our lives. And this is something through the development of a national workforce strategy in conjunction with the best and brightest minds from across the country. Barbara is on our Workforce Advisory Board that informs that work. Tim Cook, Ginny Rometty, some of the great educators, bipartisan governors and mayors from across the country. We're thinking about the development of a national workforce strategy that is responsive to the skills that are in high demand for the lucrative, high-paying jobs that exist and are being created every single day by people like yourselves. So I applaud you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for your commitment to the American worker, because today we'll be announcing that 60 different companies representing 12 different countries will be committing to reskilling close to 900,000 American workers through apprenticeship opportunities and reskilling over the next 5 years. So thank you for that incredible commitment. And Barbara knows, as a foreign-based company with substantial investments here in the United States, this is not only the right things to do to give back to the communities and the communities from where your workforce has come, and ensure that their skills remain sharp and relevant for the jobs that are being created by your companies, but it's also good business. There is a positive return on investment for this continual investment in what is the best workforce in the world. So thank you for having me here, and thank you all for coming. Thank you.
Barbara, what are the biggest challenges and opportunities your company faces in the U.S. labor market?
Well, I'll just say, first of all, thank you so much, Secretary Ross and Ivanka, for inviting me to be part of both the American Workforce Policy Advisory Board and to be here today with all of you. A year ago, I began my role as the CEO of Siemens USA, and SelectUSA was one of my very first official duties in my new role. It's been a fantastic year. And when I received the call from Secretary Ross asking for my participation in the board, he said something very, very important, which is, this is a commitment to action. We're going to get things done. And that is absolute music to my ears, and I know music to the ears of business people everywhere. As Ivanka mentioned, tax cuts and basically changing the regulatory landscape so that we have the conditions to advance our businesses, that's incredibly powerful. And so now the greatest challenge we have is also the greatest opportunity. I think with the record low unemployment in the US, businesses are looking in all kinds of new places for the talent they'll need for the future and drawing more people off the sidelines into the workforce. And so we really suffer from, I'll call it a stigma and a myth. The stigma is that manufacturing is that dark and dirty business that, of 50 years ago. And in fact, what's happening today is an absolute revolution, an evolution of manufacturing to bring in new digital tools. But that brings us to the myth, which is that robots are going to take over our jobs. And I know you've been talking about this with some other panelists today. Honestly, the way we view it at Siemens is that technology helps us to elevate the role of the human. Technology helps us expand what's humanly possible. And so what I'm looking forward to is working with others like us, Siemens, here in the US, because as a community, what we're able to do is work collaboratively to draw more people into the workforce and teach them the skills of the future.
And just to expand on that for a moment, if I may, Barbara, and I'm glad you brought it up, but technology also enables us to achieve inclusive growth of populations that had previously been marginalized or unable to do certain types of work. So today, I am very proud that in this country, the unemployment rate for Americans with disabilities is the lowest in history. So technology is enabling people to work with heavy machinery, augmented by robotics. So it is just a remarkable thing. And we see this in terms of the numbers. You mentioned people coming off the sidelines. In the fourth quarter of 2018, 73% of the Americans who got jobs came from the sidelines of the economy, not from unemployment. So people are coming back because there are great opportunities. Right. People had been out of the workforce. Women have been disproportionately benefiting from the Trump economy. 60% plus, actually, of all new jobs created, of the close to 6 million new jobs created since the election, have been secured by women. So it is an incredible moment in time, and it allows, to your point, employers, and it really forces employers to get creative in the way they should be getting creative about how they're hiring, open up the aperture in terms of who they're interviewing, which is something that we've been working very closely in terms of the council. But we wanted the advisory council, we wanted this National Workforce Council to be, as Wilbur said, action-oriented. And I think the fact that we're now sitting up on the stage, having secured close to 10 million new training commitments in less than a year by the private sector to invest in American workers is remarkable, that in and of itself. But additionally, we didn't want this incredible group of individuals to come and give us a report that gets put on a shelf with 30 other reports that look just like it and collects dust. So what we asked the Advisory Council to do for us, in addition to fueling the pledge and encouraging their supply chain and their friends to come along and sign it, is we gave them 4 very specific and tangible items that we wanted them to work on. Sorry. Number 1 is to create a campaign to promote multiple pathways to career success. We know that there are multiple pathways in America. Today, we have the lowest unemployment rate ever recorded of Americans with some college, but not a degree, working in the workforce. So incredibly low unemployment rates. And we know that there are many pathways to achieving career success outside of a 4-year college route. They just haven't been prioritized in the same way. So we love our university ecosystem. I would argue, easily, that it is the best in the world. But it is not the right path for everyone. So exposing people to the different opportunities in the skills trade that is high-tech work that doesn't require a 4-year college degree. The second is ensuring data transparency, and that each employer knows when they say, each job seeker knows what skills are required to fill the job vacancies, the 7.5 million job vacancies that exist, and each employer knows where potential workforce is, so that there's a better match in terms of the data that is being generated by the private sector and the US government to enable a transparency that benefits all. The third is around HR practices and modernizing them to make sure that second chance hiring becomes an opportunity, that jobs that don't require a college degree, HR professionals aren't inadvertently excluding qualified applicants because of the questions that they're asking. So really rethinking that process. And then the fourth, very significantly, which Secretary Ross has been such a champion for, is making sure that we're quantifying the value of this investment from an ROI perspective, because companies' balance sheets sort of play games when it comes to workforce development and workforce investments, and this is an asset. This is an asset that's being created for the employer, and it should be categorized as such. And we should have real measurable metrics around what is working, what constitutes investment in their workforce and continual education, and making sure we're sending a clear and consistent message. So we are quite excited about all of these goals, and Barbara has been really leading the way on this last one.
Thank you.
All right, well, a number of people here have asked, how can businesses best partner with government, educational institutions, and other organizations to develop a skilled workforce?
Oh, I'd love to jump in on this one because
Jump.
there's a cool thing happening right now where communities across the nation are really getting active on this topic. You know, what we're realizing is that no one business can provide all the skill training, and as Ivanka said earlier, we're no longer in that period where you can go to school for 4 years and get everything you need to know for the rest of your life. We're looking to educational institutions to prepare people not for jobs, but for careers. We're looking for businesses to join together and help create ecosystems of skills development. And I'll give you an example of one Siemens has gotten involved in. We do a lot of smart infrastructure, you know, the technology that's in buildings to make them more comfortable and secure. Well, how many building managers do you think are graduating out of high school programs today? What we've needed is to help create a pathway so folks can get certified in the technologies for this kind of work. We created a non-proprietary skills training program that we're making available through community colleges. Non-proprietary is important because what we're finding is that helping our competitors, helping our customers actually helps the whole community. So what's great about a venue like SelectUSA is the idea that you, in one place, have access to all of these departments of economic development for the states. You have access to secretaries of commerce from the states. It's sort of one-stop shopping to find the right communities for the kind of work that you want to bring here to the U.S.
Right. Well, this is another question for you, Barbara. What factors do you consider when you're contemplating a new investment in the U.S.? And how do you ensure that Siemens will have the highly skilled workers you need?
Great question. And people don't realize that the work we do here in the U.S. accounts for about 1/4 of all of Siemens' business globally. This is our largest market by far. And Siemens is over 170 years old. In 1847, when Werner von Siemens started his business, it would have been a garage startup if garages had been invented. But what he did is, in his business, he actually chose to come to the US. So we've been here for 160 years and making investments all along the way. Why? Well, because there is such a rich customer base here, right? We can find people who need all of the products and services we provide as a large infrastructure company. But more than that, we have access to talent. We have access to this educational system. My colleagues from Siemens around the globe want to take rotational assignments in the US because of that opportunity to participate in this very vibrant economy. But one of the most critical things is the rule of law and the regulatory framework that allows us to own our intellectual property and know that we can propagate that as we grow here in this very fascinating market of ours. And actually, one of the things I want to share is, in addition to all of that, is the idea of a rich research and development community. Our university system actually brings many of the best and brightest from around the world into contact with us so that we can do joint collaborative development. And what we've started doing as Siemens over the last few years is then building out, making investments in a business ecosystem. I've had colleagues at Siemens have a fantastic idea, spin that out into a small business in which Siemens ourselves invested because we think this is something that's going to not only disrupt us, but advance us. So the small business ecosystem that exists here in the US is incredibly powerful. We've figured out that based on the work that Siemens does around the world, we account for job creation of about 800,000 Americans. Think about that. So yes, it's more than the 50,000 Siemens employees. It's the work we do for others on behalf of the corporation.
Well, that's great. Well, do either of you have any closing thoughts? Because I'm afraid we're running out of time, and I know there are a million topics to be discussed. Ivanka, do you have a closing statement?
Well, I think everyone's here because we've at very least piqued your interest in the opportunity to invest in the United States, if you haven't done so already. But we would encourage exactly this action for all of the reasons that we've mentioned. There's no better place to exist today and tomorrow than in the United States of America. And we'll ensure, working in partnership with each of you and with American educational institutions, whether they be community colleges, our four-year universities, and plus, to make sure you have the workforce that you need and to make sure that the American workforce continues to be the best and the brightest anywhere in the world.
Well, I'd just like to make one closing thing, which is those of you who've not filled out a pledge, there's still time.
Yes.
And so my staff will have the forms. I'd be very grateful if we could sign up another couple of 100,000 people before we leave this conference. So thank you for your attendance here.
And also, no pledge is too small. We are really excited to be working with small businesses as they think about reskilling their workforce. So we've had businesses come to the White House website, sign the pledge to reskill 3-4 workers, which is a big commitment if you're a small business. But they recognize that it's the right thing to do for their workforce, it's the right thing to do for their company and their company's future. So however big the pledge is, whether it's large, like some of you who have signed, we've had 2 pledges signed for 1 million reskilling opportunities, or whether it's 1 worker that you're offering an apprenticeship to or on-the-job training opportunity to. We encourage it all, and once again, thank you for your participation today.
Well, now that Ivanka has hinted there may be an opportunity for the White House, you really better sign up. Thank you all for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, panelists.
Thank you.
We're over here at the Idaho booth. We're proud to announce and to welcome a new Taiwan-based company to Idaho.
I am very pleased to witness Jeton Biochemistry's announcement of its plans to invest in the state of Idaho.
This case really demonstrates that a small and medium-sized company's investment opportunity in the U.S. is possible.
To the executives at Jeton Biochemistry, you're going to love being in Idaho. It's wide open vistas, the splendor of the snow-capped mountains with bluffs and canyonlands.
We have such natural beauty. We have high quality of living.
The weather and the wilderness, the lore and the culture of the Wild West.
Our government at all levels supports commerce and better jobs.
Jeton's investment in Idaho is another example of Taiwan's ability to take advantage of investment opportunities identified in this valuable initiative.
Your investment in a manufacturing facility in Nampa creates more than 25 jobs in southwestern Idaho.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming.
Wichita is located in the heart of the country, right along the Arkansas River, and we have so much to do here. I want to welcome you to Wichita, Kansas. One of the most unique places Wichita has to offer is Old Cowtown Museum. You can travel back in time to see what Wichita looked like in the 1800s. Another must-see is the Keeper of the Plains. It's the most iconic landmark in Wichita. Every night at 9 p.m., they light the fire pots, and it is one of the most remarkable experiences. Our restaurant scene is pretty great, too. I bet we have more hummus per capita than any other city in the Midwest. If you wanted to try every hummus dish in town, you'd have to stay for at least a month. I'm proud to be from Wichita because of all the incredible things happening in our city. I can't wait to see you in Wichita.
One thing about Richmond is there's something to do every weekend. Welcome to Richmond. We're gonna get up and we're definitely gonna have coffee at Brewers Cafe in the Manchester area. The cultural diversity here in Richmond, again, encompasses all of the things that we have to offer. We will probably hit the nightlife anywhere in Shockoe Bottom or in the Fan. We'll probably hit a lot of the different bars there because they're so loyal to local. We know we can get local wine and our local craft beers at any of the bars in Richmond. Virginia is for music lovers, if you know any of the artists that are from Virginia, but just so many different artists that are coming from right here out of Richmond and getting that exposure nationally. Being in Central Virginia, one of the good things is that it takes 2 hours to get to the beach, 2 hours to get to DC, 2 hours to get to the mountains. So you can come to Richmond and then explore these other areas on other days and then still come back and just see what else the city has to offer. This is Richmond.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage Ms. Nina Urban, Associate Director Fast Forward at Johns Hopkins Technology Ventures, to moderate a discussion on biotechnology.
Should we stand in front or?
Okay, testing. Good morning. My sense is that we are getting close to the end, so thank you for lingering. And I'm very excited to be moderating this panel. So I'm currently Associate Director of Johns Hopkins' recently established Fast Forward, and we support startups at Johns Hopkins University just up the road in Baltimore. I founded and ran a platform biotech company based on university intellectual property, worked for the governor of Georgia and Georgia Tech, running the state technology incubator in Atlanta, testified in Annapolis on behalf of Johns Hopkins University's startup ecosystem, and been an active participant in economic development initiatives in Baltimore. I look forward to hearing from these three biotech executives and the governor of Michigan about what the U.S. has to offer foreign direct investors. So directly to my left is Dwayne Barnes, is president of UCB Incorporated and head of U.S. Patient Value Operations, overseeing operational activities in the U.S. He works cross functions and across the healthcare ecosystem to improve access and find new ways to deliver value to patients. UCB is a global biopharmaceutical company focused on severe diseases that have significant unmet needs, with a team of approximately 7,500 employees and operations in nearly 40 countries. Global headquarters are in Brussels, Belgium, with US headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. Additional US sites include clinical development in Raleigh, North Carolina, a policy office here in Washington, DC, and research supporting UCB's pipeline in Boston, Massachusetts, and Seattle, Washington. UCB also has an office in Durham, North Carolina, as part of their acquisition of Element Genomics and a solution accelerator on the Georgia Tech campus of Atlanta.
Thank you.
And next in line, we have Bruce Hugel, is Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer, and member of the Board of Directors of B. Braun Medical, Inc., headquartered in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. B. Braun Medical develops, manufactures, and markets innovative medical products and services to the healthcare industry. Their primary manufacturing facilities are located in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Irvine, California, Carrollton, Texas, and the Dominican Republic. Prior to joining B. Braun in 2000, Mr. Hugel spent 22 years working in 19 countries with Fortune 100 companies. Next is Mr. Lance Choi, who serves as head of CJ Corporation's biobusiness in North America. CJ Corporation is headquartered in Seoul, Korea. CJ Bio is a market leader in 4 essential amino acids in animal feed. Mr. Choi has overseen CJ Bio's sales team and manufacturing plant located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, my home state. The plant now employs approximately 300 people and is a major contributor to economic well-being in Fort Dodge. And finally, we are honored to have Governor Gretchen Whitmer. So Governor Whitmer is a lifelong Michigander. I don't say that right, I'm sure. Michigander. She was elected to the House of Representatives in 2000 and elected to the Michigan State Senate in 2006, where she served as the Senate Democratic leader. In the 2018 gubernatorial election, Governor Whitmer won all 83 counties in the primary and won the general election with 53% of the vote. Extremely exciting. Since taking her oath of office, she has put together the most diverse cabinet in Michigan's history and has signed executive directives to clean up the drinking water, end discrimination in state government based on sexual orientation and gender identity, secure equal pay for equal work, and expand opportunities for small and disadvantaged businesses. So without much more introductions, I'd like to really kick off the conversation with a question that I'd like all 3 company representatives to address. We can start in order here, which is to tell us a little something about your company yourself, rather than it being me, and discuss why you chose to invest in the US and how it's part of your long-term growth strategy.
Thank you, Nina. So, as you heard, I work for UCB. It is a global biopharmaceutical company that is headquartered in Brussels, Belgium. Our US headquarters is in Atlanta, and we have an extensive footprint here in the United States. We began operations in the 90s here in the US. Why? The question would be because it is a significantly important region if you're in biotech or biopharmaceuticals. We started with, ultimately, the original plan was to bring commercial operations and sales into the US. Since then, we've developed a strong clinical development footprint and a new medicine and new med development footprint as well. Some of that has been through acquisition and some of that has been through organic growth. But presently, we have about 1,300 employees located in the United States, represented through 8 different locations in the US. And we continue, just in the last 2 years, we have acquired 2 companies in Seattle and Boston that have enabled us to really look at a greater opportunity for new med development through research and development and innovation.
Thank you.
First of all, I want to say thank you to the Secretary for this invite. It means a lot to me. And also I want to say thank you to members of the Diplomatic Corps. I met many of them the last few days, and they're very professional and do an outstanding job. I've been working globally for 40 years, and I have to say honestly, this is the period of the most optimism I've ever seen and witnessed in my career. I tell you, there's so many optimistic executives, and it's not just the C-suite, it's not just the boardrooms, but it's on the shop floor. So I want to say, thank you to the administration and thank you to the Secretary for all that work. 3 years ago, I was asked to testify in the Senate Finance Committee in Washington, and I did that, and I remember holding up charts. And because I'm a CPA by trade, I'm interested in taxes, and I held up a chart and said, United States, you got to lower your taxes. Your corporate tax rate is not competitive. Well, this administration didn't take very long time, and they've lowered those corporate tax rates by 40%, and now we're world-class competitive. So I just want to say thank you on our behalf of our company. What did we do with that money? We gave it to our employees. We invested in research and development, capital equipment, made new products. So that's what we did with that money. B. Braun is from the 1830s, 180-year-old company, still family-held. We're not on the New York Stock Exchange. We're based in North Hessen, Germany. For you international folks, that's north of Frankfurt. And all those good values that you think of when you think of a good German company, we have those values. We over-engineer our products. Our products in medicine, we're in medical and pharma, are over-engineered, high quality, very safe, very safe. We support our workers, we support our communities, and we support the environment. So all those good values we took back to the United States, and Professor Ludwig Georg Braun took a chance on the United States in 1977. He didn't want to be an exporter, didn't want to have a sales office, didn't want to have a distribution office. He said, I want to have a manufacturing facility. He started it in Bethlehem. That business has grown from 313 employees and 6 million to over 7,000 North American workers and sales of over $2 billion. Truly a success story. And then when people say, well, how many jobs were lost in Germany? How many jobs were lost in France? You just transferred some of the jobs, and I can honestly say 0 jobs were lost. In fact, because now we have contracts with our IDNs, with our distributors, with our GPOs, and we now know the U.S. medical industry, we are able to actually bring in other products. And so 80% of our products are made in the United States, and we only import 20%.
I just wanted to clarify that you sort of underscored the corporate tax rate as being primary in terms of your incentives. So in 1970s, there was a low corporate tax rate that catalyzed this investment? Or?
No, I just mentioned it as a thank you for the administration to lower the tax rates.
The most recent developments. But in terms of like your, why you invested in the U.S., it sounds like in the 1970s that was a...
Well, a couple of reasons. Good point on, the investment. We've invested because of the success story. We also invested because the Americans love their medicine. The statistics are that the Americans pay on medicine $3.2 trillion. So the market is here. The next largest country pays, $500 billion. Next country, $400 billion. Next country, $300 billion. In fact, there's so much wealth here and interest in technology and medicine, so you have to be here. And that's why B. Braun chose to be here. And in fact, if you add up the next 9 countries, the total investment is only 75% of what the Americans pay in health care.
Thank you very much. And we're thrilled with your enthusiasm and your long-term commitment. We'll just hear from the next.
Hello, I'm from CJ. CJ Bio is a part of a global CJ group. And the CJ group has 4 different main business areas: bio, food, entertainment, media, and logistics. And we have annual sales globally $35 million. And our main target area is the United States. We want to grow our business in the United States a lot. And currently we have 13,000 employees in the 47 different states. But we want to have additional 4,000 of employees during next 2 years. And we're gonna invest additional $2 billion into US.
Wow.
Yeah, that's our target.
And I just learned from Lance that not only does he oversee what happens in the US, but also Canada and Mexico. Mm-hmm. And I'd like to, after I have a question for the governor, I'd like to loop back and maybe you could elucidate some of the differences between those experiences. So a slightly different twist for Governor Whitmer. If you could just introduce your state of Michigan briefly and talk a little bit about what your ideas are around investment and direct foreign investment.
Certainly. So I'm grateful to be here and on this wonderful panel. I think that this is an important opportunity for Michigan to show the world what we are doing in the biomedical field, because people have a tendency to think about Michigan and automotive, which is legitimate because we do have so much innovation and advanced manufacturing and research and development happening in the automotive space, where we continue to lead and created the middle class. But we also have this rich history on the biomedical that a lot of people don't appreciate, with this phenomenal college and university system that we have, and research universities from the University of Michigan to Wayne State to Michigan State. But we've got this rich history for over 150 years in the biomedical space. You know, Parke Davis was located in Detroit, and the discovery of new medications happened in Michigan. AZT, the first treatment for HIV/AIDS, was discovered at Wayne State University in Detroit. The leading chemotherapy drug, cisplatin, was discovered at Michigan State University. And Xanax, the anti-anxiety medication, at the Upjohn company in Kalamazoo. So we've got this rich history, and we continue to, I think, have this concentration of talent and research that is happening in the state of Michigan that we're incredibly proud of and always eager to expand upon. This synergy I think, makes us a state that is ripe for continued leadership on all of these fronts, and a place where business can come and grow with our MEDC, a lot of the phenomenal programs that we have in place for business to assess the ability to succeed in our state, but also to grow. And that's something that we're incredibly proud of, and we're going to continue to lead on and make Michigan a place where people come in and invest in and grow.
Thank you. Very interesting. Well, of course, two topics that were just touched on in terms of incentives, and as well as the university entrepreneurship ecosystem, which is something that I particularly focus on. Maybe we could wrap around again and talk a little bit, starting with Dwayne, about maybe the relevance of the university and entrepreneurial ecosystems, and then also feel free to expand into sort of state or regional incentives.
Yeah, so we have expanded, as I said, our footprint in the U.S., and it's been largely around research and development and innovation. Why is that? Because when you look at the ecosystems in the U.S., we have significant talent, we have significant research institutions, and we have actually hubs in the U.S. that are very vibrant, and there's a lot of strong talent in those hubs. And so we are in Research Triangle Park and Raleigh-Durham area. We have a global clinical development site there. I'll give you a number just in terms of innovation and R&D. We actually, 1 out of every 5 employees in our company is focused on research and development. 25 cents of every dollar that we make, and our revenues are north of $5.5 billion US globally, and the US is a significant portion of that. 25 cents of every dollar of revenue that we make is reinvested back into research and development, and that isn't just over the last year. That's a number where you're looking back over the last 5 or 6 years as a run rate. And so we have relationships with the Innovation Lab at Georgia Tech. We've done a lot of work specifically in neurology around identifying opportunities through AI and machine learning to understand subpopulations of patients and what medications might be the best for them to go to first. And the reason for that is because the patient value principles is really what the bedrock of our organization. And the idea is for us to go from development to delivery of a drug, we need to make sure that we have patient insights that enable our science to go after the right sort of solutions. And as a result of that, we have benefited from working with Georgia Tech, working with Duke and other universities in the Research Triangle Park and Raleigh-Durham area. We actually acquired a company in the last 2 years, the Element Genomics, that is the spinoff from Duke. And we also are in the Cambridge and Boston area and Pacific Northwest and Seattle. So the idea is really to go where there's collaboration, where there's innovation, where there's talent, and find those and leverage those. And at the same time, we realize other people are doing that and there's a lot of competition. So we have to present a unique proposition to people and institutions in terms of what we're looking at, what we're studying, the way we treat our patient employees, and the way that we focus on specific patient populations.
Thank you.
I would just only comment that most of the leading educational institutions in the United States have hospitals that they partner with. So they have different hospital systems, and they're all our customers. So we work with them. We have contracts with them to provide all the services that they need in products. So that's really how we try to partner with education, is in their hospitals.
Thank you. And Lance.
Yeah, I'm from a little bit different area. Most of people, they think bio means like medical or pharmaceutical, but I'm from industrial biotech area. So, US is the kind of heartland of all the new technology, including biotechnology and all the IT. So we have a relationship, and we have working with some companies in East Coast and the West Coast to develop new technology together. That's great chance for CJ also.
And just as I'm thinking that while the centers are highly productive, there is a bit of a diaspora of folks, and that includes through the Midwest and the South. And so to the extent that Governor Whitmer, you're thinking about workforce development or finding nice landing spots for those opportunities.
Well, absolutely. I think that, I highlighted our university system and how that's contributed to some of the discoveries and innovations that have happened in the state of Michigan. There are wonderful companies like the Stryker company, which as we think about R&D and innovation around devices and biotechnology, there's some wonderful work that is continuing to happen in the state of Michigan. But I think ensuring that we've got the workforce that has, the skills, something that as a leader of a state, we're acutely focused on ensuring that there are paths for everyone, because there is, I think, prosperity and integrity in work in various fields. But this particular part of our economy is an incredibly important to our future, to our ability to compete, and it's one in which the Michigan Economic Development Corporation is honing in and developing the infrastructure so that companies can quickly assess what synergy is happening and how we can continue to spin off and develop products in Michigan. And that's something that I think is incredibly important. We have this wonderful concentration of engineers in the state of Michigan. We are making use of this great private-public opportunity and relationships that we've been really focusing on building, and it's something that we're going to continue to do that.
Terrific, thank you. And just to play on some specifics, I'll break our pattern and go to Lance, and to the extent that you might shed light on doing business in the US versus Canada or Mexico, and of course the others can contribute perspectives as well, that just to sort of focus in on what makes the US easy or hard.
Yeah, actually, we are manufacturing essential amino acids in the United States, and we covering the market, including Canada and Mexico. But we are manufacturing, essential amino acids with industrial mass microbial fermentation. So we have to have a sugar source, and Midwest is a great place to source all the sugar source, and the corn is the main product from the Midwest. So we have to have that. And we can't find the kind of a good sugar source from Canada and Mexico. That's the reason why we're located in the Midwest.
Okay, we'll take that.
Yeah.
And Bruce?
I I really don't have much comments that the United States is complex in medicine. So it's not easier to do business in the United States than other countries. We have to be honest with that. But it's a way of how you approach that complexity. And so the complexity is there, but you have expertise and knowledge, and you pay maybe a little bit more money to ensure you have proper litigation control, you proper understand the tax environment or the FDA regulatory environment. So the U.S. is very, very complex, but you can work around that by being here, have people here, knowledgeable experts, so it no longer becomes a burden or a hurdle.
It seems dynamic of late, particularly. Maybe you could comment on that further, Dwayne.
Well, I would say first, when you think about the size of the U.S. and the healthcare system that we have, the healthcare system is very complex, but in many ways, it enables people and patients to get on therapies and medicines. So we have large patient populations in the U.S. We have great opportunities to initiate trials with patients in the U.S. because the access to them is favorable. Based upon certain policies, there are challenges today with folks being able to get on the medicines they need. And the medicines that we deal with from an immunological and neurological and bone health disease states are therapies that are disease modifying. They're not there to just provide comfort, but they're there to enhance life, create wellness, and modify the disease. And because of that, we find it very essential for us to be able to be in a market where we have specific patient populations that enable us to gain insights from those patients and develop more knowledge around how to treat patients appropriately. Today's policies, there are some that we're concerned about, but I would say from a policy perspective, we look at the opportunity to enhance innovation. We look at the opportunity to focus on volume, not focus on volume, but focus on value. And to the governor's state, there's a physician at Michigan, Mark Fenrick, who actually has a model called the value-based insurance design. And the idea of that model is to ensure that a patient isn't harmed or prevented from getting on more expensive therapies because their biology requires it if they can't afford it. So we believe in patient affordability. We believe in models that demonstrate the drug works for patients and where it works for patients. And where it doesn't work for patients, they should be able to move to the next one without hurdles and challenges through the payer system. I also comment, my father, who's not with us anymore, is an undergrad of Wayne State and a graduate of Michigan, both engineering degrees. So when you said engineering, I thought I'd just comment on that.
So I think we've got a good picture of the current commitments, the initial reasons and the current commitments. We're hearing sugar, hospitals, and patients here. But what I'd love to explore a little bit more with all four of you is your future plans and whether you'll continue on the same trajectory or pivot or take some different directions. And I know this is all just best guesses at this point. So maybe we'll start back with you and
with me.
It up. Yes, keep talking.
I'm so fortunate. We certainly find every reason for us to continue to compete intensely in the United States. We look at the policy and legislative issues that are occurring right now, much resulting from the blueprint, and analyze the impact on our business and our 10-year strategic plan. And I can't really comment on that because I don't know what's going to happen in June, July, September, and October. But every month I'm looking at what's going on here and what could that impact be to our business. Irrespective of that impact, we're going to continue to serve the patients in the United States with great energy and excitement. We hope to continue to grow our footprint. We have economic investments presently at about $430 million a year in the U.S. And we look at the opportunities because of the talent, as I said earlier, because of the talent, because of the research institutions and hospitals, because of innovation and the ability to collaborate, that this is a ripe and robust geography and region to participate in. We hope that some of the policies, any change in legislation or policy would not hamper the ability for us to continue to grow.
Thank you. Bruce.
Anita, that's a good question. You know, what the future is going to be. Well, what we're trying to do is really link closely with our customers, which is American Healthcare, all the hospitals, we sell to them all. And one of the things we've seen that they're trying to capture economies of scale and they're buying out each other. I mean, you all remember hospitals, there were a lot more of them. Now they are merging together and buying out. So as a result, we have to partner with them and be able to offer the proper products to them as they grow in size. And so that's very close. And in addition, as I mentioned, because the healthcare spending is high in the United States, there's a lot of wealth, but there's a lot of pressure to have more competitive costs. So we're partnering with all these hospitals to make sure our products are very safe, yet at a proper value. And I think that trend's going to continue for a long time.
Excellent. Lance.
Yeah, our short-term goal is to add more product line in the United States. Right now, we are manufacturing human nutrition and animal nutrition product, and we want to add the animal nutrition product first, because right now, African swine fever is a huge issue for the American farmers. And still, American farmers using much imported product. So we want to replace all the imported product with our made in USA product. So that's our short-term goal. And every product is like commoditized. So we want to go to the value-added product and the service market. We want to focus on the human nutrition side more. That's our long-term goal. And there is a new technology, like kind of genetic evaluation and all the like AI technology. So everybody can use those kind of technology to build a smart factory. So we are thinking about to go to personalized nutrition area.
Terrific, thank you.
Well, I've been governor for 6 months, and I was fortunate enough to inherit some wonderful things, a great biotechnology sector that represents $20 billion economic investment annually in my state. We boast being the home of companies like Stryker and Neogen and Pfizer, and we're incredibly proud of that history and the growth that's happened in the sector recently. The Michigan Economic Development Corporation, I think I would put it up against any of the other 49 states as an agency that is devoted to expanding on the strengths that we have and pulling more investment into the state of Michigan. And so we're going to keep our foot on the gas on those areas. But I'll recognize too that not everything I inherited is perfect, and so there are areas that I am focusing energy on to make sure that we continue to have the best skilled workforce around, creating opportunities for adults to upskill and for graduates of high school to move into an affordable path into the four-year research institutions that we've got phenomenal ones that we boast in Michigan, as well as two-year degrees, which we know in all of these industries, we need people with skills on all of those fronts. So really boosting and shoring up this concentration of talent that's been a hallmark of the state of Michigan is, I think, the challenge and the opportunity on the horizon as we continue to make Michigan a place where investment comes to and people make their lives in. It's a phenomenal state. Of course, I'm biased, but we are home to 21% of the world's fresh water is in and around the state of Michigan. Incredible biodiversity in the agricultural sector, and that's why I think we've had such successes around innovating in vaccines and medical devices, and they have agricultural impact as well as on people. So this is something that I think is a wonderful opportunity for us as a state, and one that I hope anyone here is paying attention to, because I think that Michigan's a wonderful place for growth.
Terrific. Well, at this point, I'd like to thank all the panelists. I've learned a lot and met some interesting folks, and I hope you have enjoyed it as well, and we'll move on with the day. So So thank you.
Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. You should come to Michigan.
Yeah.
Spend more time.
When you look at the value proposition in the United States, the size of the market alone makes it very attractive for companies that aren't selling here or that aren't doing business here today. That is pretty much the biggest reason I think companies are drawn to consider the United States. The secondary benefit is that ability to collaborate with some of the best universities in the world to drive innovation, to drive product development. Those kinds of partnerships that companies, whether they're US companies or overseas companies, those kinds of partnerships that they can drive with American educational institutions and universities can really power that next generation of innovation that all companies are really locked in on trying to uncover.
I think too that we have mastered that art of bringing together universities and corporates from industry. So those are really great partnerships that I've particularly seen Europeans be very, very interested in.
It's a natural translation for us to come to the U.S. The U.S. market, undeniable, is the most important market in the world. I think we've had a great experience in including people who are diverse, who don't share maybe the same culture as some of the people we have now. But what we realize is they want to be part of a collaborative culture where it's easy to work together and to share ideas and to be efficient.
And I really enjoy working with the Americans as people. They are really personable.
Knowing what everybody in the world learns and believes it's true, that it's cheaper to hire outside the US, so let's do that. And in the beginning, we thought we had to outsource everything to Brazil and other countries. Not really true, but the quality of work here, it's been way superior to any additional cost that you may think you would have. That makes our business more profitable, believe it or not, because it's local. We have great brains and still work ethics here, so it's a pleasure, yes.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the plenary session. We invite you to join us for lunch and networking in the exhibition hall at this time. Thank you for attending the 2019 SelectUSA Investment Summit.